Hey y'all, welcome to the realm of comics where I talk everything comics, manga, graphic novels. Thank you so much for being here today. I am slightly behind a little bit on what I wanted to do in terms of reading or talking about my best stuff, worst stuff, and my goals for the channel and the content coming up in 2023. But hey, as I always say, better late than never. So today I'm here to talk about the best graphic novels, comics, and manga that I read in 2023. Some of these I can talk about in detail. Some of these I really can't even talk about at all, which is interesting, but it is what it is. So I have 20 manga, graphic novels, and comics that I loved and adored, and just they made my heart smile. Some of these I'm talking about as a series. Some of these I don't think I have any. No, I don't have any single issue. Yes, I have one that's a one shot on here that I really ended up loving. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. So the first thing that is on this list is Saga Volume 9. I literally can't tell you anything about it. I literally cannot tell you anything, nothing, nada, absolutely nothing. I'm so sorry to say that, but I can't tell you anything about this. Just know that I loved it. It's absolutely amazing. Bree and I are supposed to be reading Saga Volume 10 together. We haven't gotten to that point yet, so no, I have not read Volume 10, but we should get to it this year. I'll just have to shoot her a text message. But Saga is such a great series. I had so much fun doing a reread of the entire series and really remembering why I enjoy Brian K. Vaughan so much as a comic writer. He's just done a million amazing things, and I've read a great portion of the work that he has done, or I've started a lot of the series that he's written. And so it was just nice to dive back into this world and get my heart broken and shattered into a million pieces, because, you know, what is life? I had always heard about Volume 9, Volume 9, Volume 9. I'm like, what in the world are y'all talking about with Volume 9? And I finally read it and I was like, what the hell? So for all of you out there who have not made it to Volume 9, just be emotionally prepared to... yeah, just be emotionally prepared, okay? That's all I'm going to tell you. The next one that I have on my list is going to be another series that I also can't really talk much about, and I'm just going to say Blood on the Tracks. I'm not going to even say like a specific volume, because at this point I've read volumes 1 through 11 of Blood on the Tracks. I need to get volume 12. I don't know why I haven't done it yet, but it will happen sometime soon. In the next couple of weeks, I will read volume 12 soon, because I don't think we're getting volume 13 until May of this year. So it'll be a while before we get to step into the next volume. Blood on the Tracks is kind of like a psychological thriller type of manga, slightly horrific in some ways when you really think about it, that follows the relationship dynamics between a mother and her son. And really, honestly, that's all that I can tell you, because diving into any specifics about this, it's so easy to spoil it. I will say that what I do appreciate about the series is that it is very art driven, and I love that. So it doesn't take long to make it through and a volume of Blood on the Tracks, even when they are so thick, because of the fact that it's so heavy on the art side, but the art drives a narrative in a way that makes it extremely creepy, especially Oshimi's way of like drawing eyes. I have never seen a mangaka delve so much into creating expression behind eyes to the point that it's literally terrifying. And there are panels where it's like a train wreck, but you just can't look away, and it makes you incredibly uncomfortable. There are a lot of content warnings for that one, so I definitely would check out some reviews before diving into the series, but it is absolutely amazing. The next one that I have on my list is Stray Dogs, and this is another one where I will say that it's not going to necessarily be for anyone if you are sensitive to the harming of animals, and especially because this is a graphic work, meaning that you visually will see it and not just imagine it. I don't recommend this one. I do recommend it, but I know that people who are sensitive to stuff like that, it is not going to be for you. It follows a dog who previously had an owner and then is all of a sudden with this other owner, and she can't remember anything that happened in between the time that she had a previous owner and this new owner. And this new owner has all of these dogs, and she can't figure out what, she knows something is wrong, and she keeps getting these flashes of something not being right. And so we follow her and the other dogs as they try to put pieces of the puzzle together about what exactly is going on with this owner. They have no idea like what he's doing, what he's capable of, but they know something about him is not right. So all of this is taking place from the perspective of the dogs. It's really intriguing, well written. I love the artwork. When this was coming out in single issue form, I wasn't sure how I would receive it, so I wanted to wait until I was able to get my hands on the trade, and I did, and it was chef's kiss. Absolutely amazing. The next one that I have on my list is also a series. There's the two of these actually back to back are ones that I absolutely loved and adored, and they're more slice of life, very not plot driven, more character driven, more just, you know, following people from their day to day. And the first one that I have is Days on Fez. So this is a short series. It's only 5 volumes long, and it follows 2 young girls or teenage girls who enjoy music and going to music festivals. And literally through each volume, you are simply reading about them going to music festivals and trying different festivals out, the difference between the festivals, difference in music, and there's some kind of interesting like relationship dynamics that happen between the characters. It really is not that like serious. It's not that serious of a thing that's happening in terms of like plot. You literally are just following them. It just was cool. Like if you like music and you're interested in music festivals and things that take place around the globe in terms of music festivals, like it's a really, really fun series to check out. I love learning so much. I love the artwork. I just had a fun time reading it. I still haven't finished the series yet, but believe you me, I will. And the next one on my list that kind of follows the same kind of feel, except this one had a different emotional impact on me. That's Laid Back Camp. Laid Back Camp is about some teenagers that like camping, or young adults that like camping, and I don't like the outdoors like that. So when I originally checked it out from the library, I was like, girl, why are you checking out this manga about camping? Y'all, vibes, literally. It is so chill. It is so calm. It is so fascinating. It is interesting. It makes you feel serene and calm, like you're out in nature. This is like you want to explore nature, but you really don't want to explore nature by yourself. This is a series for you to check out, and you get to learn all this information about like camping, all the tools that people take with them, the clothing, the campsites. I was like, why am I so blown away by this? It kind of was like the same thing that I had with Drops of God, where I was like, I don't want to read a manga about winemaking. But then I read it and I was like, holy shit, this is good. It was the same thing with Laid Back Camp. I was like, okay, I'm trying this, but 9 times out of 10, I'm probably not going to like it. And when I read the first 5, I was like, oh no, I really, really do enjoy this. This is great. I'm eating this up. I'm loving it. The next one I have on my list is another manga, which has kind of taken the world by storm. And I'm just going to say D, Fight Island, because I don't know if I will get flagged with this video. I don't know how it will work on this channel just yet. I know I don't necessarily get flagged on my other channel, but I don't want to play games on this channel just yet because I don't know what I can and can't do just yet. But D Fight Island, y'all, it is so heartwarming. It is the cutest thing ever. And I still haven't read volume 2 because I just can't believe it's only 2 volumes long. And I have literally volume 2 is across the room and I haven't read it yet, but I will read it sometime probably this month. That's my aim, my goal probably is to get to it sometime this month. But it was so good. It is about these island of men that compete for leadership basically by fighting with crossing swords. Yeah, the purpose is for them not to, you know, so they have to kind of figure out how to make the other person, you know, without taking off they have these huge shields, and it just it is so hard to describe this. It is very, very hard to describe this, but just know, like, I know that it feels like very graphic and it's a lot, but I promise you, it is cute. It is the cutest thing in the world. It's just heartwarming and charming, and I loved it. I love me some D Fight Island. Next on my list, I have The Best We Could Do, which is a nonfiction graphic memoir that, oh gosh, I cried and cried and cried reading this one. So in the beginning of this one, we are following a mother who is giving birth to her child, her first child. And so throughout the context of the book, she's trying to reckon with the relationship that she's had with her mother and her father, and understanding kind of the generational trauma that they've passed on to her. And there's almost kind of this sense of anger because of the things that they've done and said and how they've raised her. But going back through and looking at their life, especially when they've had to leave Vietnam during the Vietnam War in order to come to the United States, there is a different appreciation for sometimes what parents go through. It doesn't necessarily make things right when parents pass trauma on to their kids, but you can see how it could happen, and that a lot of times parents don't intend for it to happen. But looking at it from the perspective of her parents, who had gone through so much trauma, they had a lot of trauma responses and how they raised their kids because of what they were going through while they were still in Vietnam. And so you kind of see that filter and get passed on to them. And at the end, a big question of it is, you know, will she do the same thing to her child? And she won't know until he gets older if she's accidentally passed on that trauma, or, you know, raised him in certain ways that cause trauma because of how she's been traumatized by her own parents. And it's that urge and that want and that need to break the cycle. And this one was an emotional one for me because I come from a family that has passed on trauma from generation to generation. And it's difficult even for me because I was raised by a parent that experienced a great load of trauma, and a lot of the ways in which I was raised was through trauma responses. And so I'm trying not to raise my child in the same way. And sometimes it can be hard, and I catch myself doing things that I don't think I should do, and not in a bad way, but in a way where it's like I want to be very focus on gentle parenting, and sometimes catching myself not necessarily doing that. It's difficult sometimes to reckon with, and you don't want to impact your children the same way your parents have impacted you, even if they had the best intentions, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that I just connected to the author in that way, in a huge way. The next one that I have on this list is one that I have already talked about in my middle grade recommendations, so I'm not going to talk about it too much in detail again here, but I will link that video up in the card symbol above. So Borders is a middle grade graphic novel that I read that was absolutely phenomenal, that focuses on a young boy and his mother as they try to cross the border from Canada into America because his sister has moved to the States. And when they get to the Border Patrol's asking, are you Canadian or American? And the mother keeps responding Blackfoot. And so you go through this whole process of trying to figure out, like, why does she keep responding in that way? And eventually you get to see the story unfold, and you learn more about this creation of borders, or the existence of borders that mean nothing to First Nations people. Like these borders did not exist when they were here, and so you have colonizers come in and create these borders, and then you expect them to abide by the borders and rules that you've created, even though they were here first. Very, very intricate graphic novel that does not hold your hand. It pushes you to kind of explore and figure out the context of the story yourself, which I definitely appreciated. The next one I have on this list is Seaside Stranger, and I'm saying the entire series for this one because I enjoyed the entire series of Seaside Stranger, and I'm slowly still reading Seaside Stranger. It is a BL manga series that focuses on a couple that they have a very interesting start. So we have one of our main characters who is living in a seaside village with his aunt. He has recently come out as gay and has had issues with his family, so he decides to move in with his aunt. And he sees this other boy who's, you know, sitting by the sea constantly, and so he approaches him and basically says, you know, I'm interested in getting to know you. And he says, oh, well, you know, actually I'm about to move and go inland and go to school, and so this is not going to work. And, you know, maybe we could, I think they had agreed possibly on like communication while he had moved inland and gone to sea, and then there was no communication. So he comes back several years later, and it's like, okay, I'm ready, let's start a relationship. And the other guy's like, no, that's not how it works. You don't get to just pop up, you know, several years later and say you want to start a relationship with me. Like, time has passed, feelings have changed. And so we get to see them following, you know, or we get to see them kind of work through their relationship dynamics. I think one of the things that I took away from reading this series last year was that it is very real. This is no like, oh, everything's lovey-dovey and sweet. No, like they have issues, and it's not in an unhealthy way, but when you have relationship dynamics where, you know, time has passed, feelings have changed, people are still trying to figure out their sexual identity, it's not going to be super smooth. And that's what I think you could think going into it, but I think that that's what makes this so real. It makes the relationship dynamic even more enjoyable, because it's like, okay, this can really happen. This is not perfect, and no relationship is perfect. So that's why I really ended up enjoying that one. Next, I have The Legend of Auntie Poe, which I absolutely adore this one too. This is another middle grade graphic novel that takes place. It's kind of like a lumber, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a logging or lumber, more of a logging camp where they are, you know, cutting down trees and doing whatnot. And it shows the experience of Chinese Americans who worked within that camp and how they were ostracized and treated, and the racism that impacted them. We're following the narrative of a young girl who is into storytelling, and so the whole entire aspect, or the whole entire theme of this book, is storytelling and who has the right to tell certain stories. As you see from the cover of this book, it really, it's what's that guy, y'all, goodness gracious, with the ox. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The guy who had the blue ox and whatever his name was. So it's kind of mimicked off of that, but it questions like, what is storytelling? Who gets ownership to these stories? And how do we use storytelling to communicate and to pass down certain traditions? I really enjoyed it, and that's one that I actually want to reread sometime soon. The next one that I have on my list is Sweat and Soap, which I am up to volume 9 of Sweat and Soap now. I think I just started Sweat and Soap in 2022. So I read 8 volumes of Sweat and Soap last year, and I love this series, y'all. It is really cute. Shout out to Shay and Izzy for putting me on to Sweat and Soap, because I wouldn't have picked this up without their encouragement. It follows 2 characters who work at this same company that produces these, you know, fragrant soaps. And so our heroine in this, she has a sweating issues. She sweats a lot. She does not like it. And so she's constantly figuring out ways to keep herself from sweating as much, and using, you know, certain deodorants and certain soaps and stuff like that. It's even some through the company. And so one day they cross paths, and he really enjoys her scent. Like, he smells her, like sniffs her, and falls in love with the way that she smells. It sounds like a very weird premise, and in some ways it does read that way in the beginning, but I promise y'all, it is fascinating. It is so heartwarming and charming. And this is another one where like everything seems kind of easy at first, and I don't want to say easy as if like their relationship doesn't have its awkward moments sometimes, and they're learning to become comfortable in their own bodies, they're learning to become comfortable with each other, but stuff gets real. Like as their relationship progresses, because I was very shocked by volume 6 and 7, where I think it was 6 and 7, we're somewhere around 6, 7, 8, where we're getting a deeper dive into the relationship dynamics, where they're not always getting along and they may have issues with each other. Once again, going back to that realistic picture of relationships are not always easy. You're not going to always get along. Sometimes you're going to have conflict, and I like the way that everything was handled in the series so far, and I'm excited to go ahead and wrap it up and finish up Sweat and Soap this year, sometime this year. The next one that I have is How to Be Ace. Bree and I read this one last year for the Rema Comics Book Club. How to Be Ace is such a great graphic novel. We came to the conclusion at the end of the live show that How to Be Ace is a great supplement or a great entry point for those who want to read the nonfiction book Ace by Angela Chen. And it really explores because it's nonfiction. No, because I'm definitely about to say character, but it's nonfiction, and it's told from the perspective of an individual that had a difficult time attempting to find the words to describe what they were experiencing. And I think that that is probably one of the hugest takeaways that I got from How to Be Ace. Not just their life story and everything that they went through and challenges that they had, but they literally did not have the language because of the time in which this part of their life was taking place. There was no terminology for it. And the way that asexuality was viewed was less of a spectrum than it is now. And so it reminded me of the importance of language for people to be able to identify themselves. And you never realize how important language is and having a way to describe what you're going through and how you identify until you don't have it, and how frustrating and anxiety inducing that can be. And we see all of this across the graphic novel. It's just really, really great. I highly recommend that one. Next, I have House of Slaughter by James Tynion. There was no way I was going to make this list and not have a James Tynion on it. Are we being serious? Absolutely not. But I can't tell you anything about House of Slaughter. There's nothing that I can tell you about House of Slaughter except that it fits into the grand scheme of the Something is Killing the Children series. Somewhere in there it does fit in there, but I can't tell you how it fits into the whole grand scheme of Something is Killing the Children. I can't tell you anything, but this shit made me cry. Okay? All right? It takes a lot for me to cry over a comic. Graphic novels, I've cried over a few graphic novels, but comic book series, I don't know. I'm not as emotional, but this one, child, listen, I was like, he's messed up for doing what he did with that one. And I think it's because you already knew the conclusion to someone's story before you get to it, because it serves as a prequel. So because you know the conclusion to someone's story and you're kind of going back in time to get more of their story, it's like, why are you getting me attached and getting all these feels? And it's anyway. The next one that I have is Batman Court of Owls, which is the start of Scott Snyder's run of Batman. Let me tell y'all something. I am going to read all of Scott Snyder's run of Batman this year. I was supposed to do it last year. That was the plan. It didn't happen. And I've got to make it happen this year so I can do a compare and contrast of Snyder's run, King's run, and Tynion's run of Batman. Because for some reason, your girl is all of a sudden into Batman. I used to not like Batman at all. But the more Batman I read, the more I'm like, you know, you're not that bad. And I think it all depends on how he's handled by a writer. And in this particular one, let me tell you, Snyder deconstructs Batman and literally deconstructs him as a character. We are following him based off of this legend over the Court of Owls, where there's like, when they come for you, you're pretty much a marked man. And so Batman doesn't believe in this. He feels like it's just an old child's tale to kind of scare kids into doing the right thing. But there are instances that proves that the Court of Owls is very much so real, and he is not taking it seriously. And so we literally see him driven to madness in this one. And just there's points in this first volume where you literally have to like turn the book around and like read it from different angles because of how the panel work is done. It is brilliant. So freaking good. Oh my god. That's why I said I cannot wait to dive into more of this, y'all, because it is so good. It is so good. It is so good. The next one I have is Allison Borderland, which I am not going to say anything about Allison Borderland because I do have a first impressions video on Allison Borderland. Loved it. Been watching the live action on Netflix and love it, love it, love it. I do need to get volume 2 of Allison Borderland, but I will leave that video linked in the card symbol above. I also have Earth Divers on this list. It's not even, a trade is not even out of Earth Divers yet. We are only on issue number 4 of Earth Divers, and I can already tell you it's going to be bomb. So this is the continuing series that Stephen Graham Jones is currently writing with IDW, and Stephen is doing his thing. Oh my gosh, he's doing his thing with this. Y'all, if you have not read Earth Divers, you are missing out. You are completely and totally missing out. This is a time travel horror where we have a group of indigenous characters who are trying to go back in time and kill Christopher Columbus. That way they can undo all the bullshit that he's done here. And that's all I need to tell you. That's all I need to tell you, because that's it. That's all I need to tell you. Next, I have a Wash Day Diaries, which I'm aching for my own copy of Wash Day Diaries, okay? I read this. It was an instantaneous 5-star read. Instantaneous 5-star read. No question about it. I loved it. It follows a perspective of 4 Black women who are focused on their relationships themselves, the friendship that they have with each other, and interwoven into that is hair, Black hair, appreciation of Black hair. I love that we got to see so many different styles and textures and love, and you know, there was even a character that was struggling with their hair, but empowering that character and letting them feel comfortable in their Blackness and in their hair. And it was beautiful. Let me tell you something, as a Black woman who has gone through so many different phases of my hair and appreciating it, and you know, going away from the manipulation and trying to fit these, you know, Western standards of what my hair should and should not look like, I feel like this was written for me and so many other Black women. And so I need a copy. I need a copy because I need to read Wash Day Diaries again. Another one that I have on my list that kind of follows the same thing about hair is Frizzy, which I also talked about in my middle grade graphic novel recommendations. So be sure to check out that video again. I should have already linked it in the card symbol above. But this one also kind of did the same thing, where you're following a character who is taken to the salon by her mother every single week because her mother wants her to get her hair straightened and she hates it. She wants to wear her curls, but she can't do it because of how her family views her hair, and she also doesn't know how to take care of it. So there's this element too of education, of learning your hair and learning how to take care of it and what products work best for your hair, because the way one person takes care of their hair may not be something that you can do in your hair. I think this is just something that a lot of people can relate to, that whole conversation about having good hair, especially when it comes from family members who are like, oh, you don't have good hair. And it's tragic, and our main character is Afro-Latin, and so she's struggling a lot with that in terms of her other family members and having hair that's coarser, kinky, and curly. So loved it. Clarabella Ortega can do no wrong in my eyes. I also have Swim Team on this, which is another one that is a middle grade graphic novel that I talked a little bit about in that video. This is an exploration of the relationship between being able to swim and the Black community, and how segregation has often prevented a lot of Black people from learning how to swim, and that has become kind of a cyclical or generational thing, where one generation was not allowed access to swimming pools, and so we just continue to see that inability to be comfortable with the water go on and on and on and on. And it's super unfortunate, but that's kind of the backdrop of the story, where we are following a character who is moving to Florida with her, I think they're moving to Florida with her dad. She's attending this middle school. She's excited to attend this middle school. And then when she goes to sign up for elective, she wants to sign up for this math elective. And they're like, oh, sorry, never mind. We don't have any more room in any electives that you wanted. So instead of being able to take the elective that she wants to take, she ends up in Swim 101, which she's very, very nervous about because she can't swim. She has no experience with the water, and it makes her extremely nervous. And so we kind of get to see her learn how to swim. She partners with her neighbor to, you know, get more lessons. We see these elements of team building with the other characters and wanting to compete. It just is a really, really great middle grade graphic novel that it just, I can't wait. I hope Johnny Christmas does end up doing more middle grade graphic novels, because this one was just really, really good. And the last one that I have on my list is, it was a one shot, and it's the Harley Quinn 30th anniversary. Y'all, I love me some Harley Quinn. I love me some Harley Quinn. I just find her just fascinating as a character. She's amazing as a character. I love her as a character. And I am ultimately kind of like blown away by some of the things that writers have done with Harley Quinn. So there was this 30th anniversary one shot that was about 80 pages long, which was filled with short stories that paid homage to Harley Quinn in a variety of different ways. And I loved it, y'all. There were just so many great pieces and parts. There was one that was done, and I'm just highlighting this one. There was one that was done by Cami Garcia that I picked up on really, really quickly, because I was like, oh, I was like, man, I said, this reminds me of Criminal Minds, because in it, Harley Quinn is a profiler and she's working close with a police department, Gotham Police Department, in order to, you know, profile Joker. And so I was like, I wish this was a full story. Why did I not know that DC Black Label did Criminal Insanity and Cami Garcia wrote it? So I bought it. I haven't read it yet, but I did buy it because I just like the idea of a story that goes back to focusing on Harley Quinn's intelligence. I think people often forget that Harley Quinn is a brilliant woman, and she just gets so caught up and lost in Joker's nonsense that sometimes I think when some people have gotten a hold of her as a character, you forget that this woman does have her PhD. Like, she's Dr. Quinn. Like, she's intelligent, and she does lose, like I said, she does lose some of that essence, I think, in depending upon who's handling her as a character. But I love seeing kind of versions of her like this, where we go back to the roots of her character and we really get to see like how fascinating this woman is and how she got caught up in becoming so into Joker as a person that she essentially loses herself. But it was good. The one shot was very, very good. All right, y'all, so those are my best comics, graphic novels, and manga of 2022. I'm so excited to see like what's going to be on my favorites list for 2023. I've already read, I think maybe 5. No, that was when I filmed a couple days ago. So I've read about 7 graphic novels, comics, and manga since the year has started. So we already are off to a good start, and some of them have been really, really good. Some of them not so great. So we'll see what happens. Now, later on this week, you will be getting my most disappointing and worst comics and graphic novels and manga for the year of 2022. So be on the lookout for that. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. If you're interested in following me on social media, all the links will be down in the description box below, and I'll be back with another video soon.